Good morning, dear respected Thai, dear Sangha. It is so beautiful to see us sitting here in such a large number. It's been a while. We've been closed for a little bit, and today we are welcoming our guests in the autumn retreat. It is the 29th of September in the year 2024, and we are in Upper Hamlet, Plum village. We are welcoming the happy farmers in Lower Hamlet and in Upper Hamlet. We have guests in New Hamlet, in Lower Hamlet and in Upper Hamlet. And we've come here all together. And all of us here, somehow, things have happened in our lives that made us come together right in this moment. For me, sitting on this stage, and for you sitting on a mat or a cushion or a chair. And today I would like to bring you along on my journey. A lot of things have happened in my life that has resulted in me sitting here. Beautiful things have happened, challenging things have happened, and I have learned and I have grown. So I'd like to take you along in this journey of healing and transformation, and hopefully offer you that so that I have a chance to share with you how I've learned in my life, and that maybe that can then have a little place in your life. And who knows? Maybe after this, you will be a different person. Actually, I will guarantee you, after this, you will be a different person, because it's impossible to stay the same person. Even the very air that we are breathing right now, in which we are saying, "Oh, that's not me," in a few moments' time, they will become part of the blood and that blood will become part of the movement of your heart, the breathing of your lungs, the speech, and even your thinking. So thank you, dear air. Enjoy not being me for this moment, because in a moment you will have to be me. And that's enjoyable too. So I brought with me some things that are meaningful in my life. And that was very scary when I prepared for this, but I have a little altar with things that are meaningful for me. And I don't know if some of you already saw a little ear sticking out here. So what is this monk gonna do? I bring with you my teddy bear. Oh, there's something else as well. This is an emergency thing. My father gave this to me when I received the lamp. And it says, emergency packet, with a little heart, your father. Use in dark days. Mysterious. So maybe I will need it. I will put it here. A little paper, but my bear. This bear is called Sloa. When I was a little boy, this bear was given to my brother, and he didn't play with it. And at one day I decided this bear was alone enough, and I claimed it. And I think, I don't know, I don't have a memory of it anymore, but I think I once heard on the television the country name of Czechoslovakia. In Dutch, Czechoslovakia. And I was so impressed by that word that I used a part of that word, Sloa. And so my bear was called Sloa. And my bear and I were quite unseparated. And it was very lovely for my mom to see me playing around. I was a little boy, always inventive, always looking around, trying to figure out things. And she said, like, yeah, you were the one where we had to lock the kitchen cabinets because I would turn around and suddenly everything was on the floor. One day, my mother saw me walking around as a 3-year-old. And she saw me, and she was like, there's something wrong. He looks quite sad. What's going on with him? So as she observed me, seeing, and suddenly she saw, wait, he is not carrying his bear with him. And so, as my mom went, she asked me, where's your bear? And I announced, I am now too big to have a bear. And she looked at me. And she didn't know where this was coming from. She told me later. She looked at me and she said, ah, yes. I see that you are too big to have a bear. But is your bear big enough to be without you? And suddenly, no! And I went and I got my bear. And I was reunited. And never again have I decided I was too big to have a bear. But this was the first time I've noticed the self decided something about itself. I am too big, and because of that, X, X, X. And through our lives, and through my lives, I've decided many times, I am this, this, this. So this bear is on my shelf to remind me of that little boy, of his play, of his curiosity, and of love. Because interestingly enough, this bear is something outside of me. So the love that the bear was giving me, where is that love born? Does it come from the bear? Or do I have the capacity to generate this love? How can I let go of the idea that love needs to come from outside? So, he will be on stage with me. I have more. I have a Dacia sign on my... When I grew up, I wasn't thinking like, wow, when I grow up, I want to drive a Dacia. No, I wanted to drive an Audi. I got my Audi. Great car, but anyway, any cars are great. You drive in it, wonderful. I had a little accident with the Dacia. I killed a boar. It jumped in front of my car. My actions have consequences. I cannot take away that moment. But when I bow to my food, and I see this food is now outside of me, a lot of things has happened for me for this food to be on the table. Insects have been killed, other things have been killed. And now this food is allowed to become part of my body, allowed to become part of my actions of body, speech, and mind. And now I have a chance to continue it in a very beautiful way. So this is a reminder for me of the consequences of my actions. and death. I so have the intention to do it well, and sometimes I cause harm. I have a little candle that my brother Teen Kai made. Thank you, brother. He recycles old candles, and then he puts a wick in it. I hope this wick is not too big, because last time, when I was meditation hall master 11 years ago, Thai was still alive, and I felt we need good candles in a lamp transmission. And so I had made a new wick in a candle, and I put it on the altar. The whole community was there. I had lit the candle, and Thai was transmitting the lamp, very beautiful, and suddenly the flame of the candle went bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was like, oh no! I stood up in order to stop the candle, and Thai was transmitting the lamp, and Thai gave me a look. I was like, okay, I'll sit down, Thai. And the flame grew bigger and bigger and bigger, and then the wax was flowing over the altar and on the table. When we got back into the schedule in the spring retreat, suddenly I was not the meditation hall master anymore. I asked my brother, why? He said to me, if you want to suffer, you try to find out, or you let go. I said, okay, Thai, I will let go. I still don't know what the real reason was. I haven't asked my brothers. Please, if you know, Thai Pham, yes, if you know, then I'd love to hear. I think I'm ready. I have a little car with me as well, a little Porsche. It came to me in a meditation. As a little boy, I felt somewhere in my body there was something like love, and it was playing with a little car. And then there was another part in my body, was being a little bit lonely and sad. And this little sad part manifested itself as a little girl. And I played with the little car, and I said to the little girl in me, do you want to play? And the little girl said, no, I don't like playing with cars. And I was like, oh, but I like playing with cars. And then suddenly I realized, but I have a bear. Would you like playing with the bear? And that she liked. And then the bear and her doll, because she said, I have a doll. So for me, the little car is a reminder of so many times that I want to love. And I want to give them something that I appreciate and love, but maybe they themselves need something else. So this little car is for me the art of loving and misunderstanding and learning and then understanding and then offering what the other person needs. And my last thing is a unity. It's a little piece of wood made from one piece of wood, and there are three figures that are leaning on each other. When my grandmother died and she gave me a tiny bit of money, I used it to buy a bigger version of this, where 13 people are leaning on each other. This for me is a symbol of interbeing. How we all rest on each other. How we cannot be an individual separated from each other. We are made of the same things, and we are leaning on each other for our own existence. For me also signifying the Sangha, collective energy, and our loving planet. So it's getting full in here, but here it is. Okay, I feel at home. May we listen to a sound of the bell. Just before coming up on the stage, I met Thai Phap Ung. And Thai Phap Ung and I have gone through a lot of things together. We've been on many tours together. And he gave me a little hug. And he said, "A lot of love." And I said, "Yes, Thai." It's such a beautiful, intimate little moment where he chose to water that seed in me. So we are all here for a reason. And there is one word I really love in our tradition. It's a very complicated word, like Czechoslovakia. And we have many of them. And that word is Drishta Dharma Sukha Vihara. These have a lot of dots and dashes on it. Drishta Dharma Sukha Vihara. That which is currently manifesting, the phenomena that I am currently aware of in the present moment. So, right now, am I inside or outside of your mind? Our mind creates a distinction between me and you, and we can have this idea that I have my eyes and then I'm looking outside of myself, and that is outside of me. But the seeing in itself can only take place in the mind. So what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're smelling, all takes place in the mind. So this very Dharma talk, and you looking at me, I am a phenomena in your mind right now. I am currently present as a phenomena in your mind. Sukha means happiness, and vihara means dwelling. And I will hopefully bring you into, because in our tradition we have another beautiful sign, which is like a Zorro, from the historical dimension to the ultimate dimension. So for me, what does Drishta Dharma Sukha Vihara mean in the historical dimension? The dimension where there is duality, where there is present, future, past, me, you, there are objects. What in the present moment is available to you, where if you place your awareness in those phenomena, that it is pleasant enough, that it is safe enough, that it is enjoyable enough, and that when you can rest in it, it can grow. So for me, when I was walking here and I saw the green of the trees, when I saw the green and I rested my awareness in those phenomena, and I kept being with it, the trees started to continue as feelings in my body, and something started to grow. So what in you right now? And this can be your breath. Your breath can be very enjoyable. But for me, I've noticed that I have in the past struggled a lot with the breath. Because sometimes for me, following the breath felt like, do you know a skippy ball? This is this round ball with these handles and that you can jump on. Sometimes it felt like that for me, following the breath is like trying to hold a skippy ball below water. And it wouldn't work for me. And I found out that I have so many more senses available for myself that I could take refuge in, that I could dwell in. And we have this beautiful drawing. So, we have our 5 senses, which actually are 10. We have 10 senses. But the body, the 5th sense, can be divided into 6 different senses. So we have sight, hearing, smelling, tasting, and then we come to the body. The body has touch on the skin, warmth, pain on the skin. But then we have the 6th one, called proprioception. Proprioception is when you close your eyes, you know you can experience where your limbs are in space. I know without having to look that it feels like that my arm is behind me right now. Proprioception is also the feeling of I know that my arm right now is making an up and down motion. And it's very interesting. You can try this in meditation. You can close your eyes and become aware of your body in space and just feel. Does it feel like that all my limbs and all my body parts, my fingers and my palms, are they connected to each other? Or are they floating a little bit apart from each other in space? Does my arm feel much higher than what I know it actually is, or is it lower? It's quite interesting to become aware of your body in space as a meditation object. And it can be quite enjoyable. It can also be quite revealing when you see that, hey, wow, my shoulder feels like a meter apart. And then to accept that. But that's how it feels like. That is how I am manifesting right now. We have balance. We can feel balance. We know where it's up. We know where it's down. We have the internal sense of pain in the body, not only in the skin, but through our whole body. We can be aware of temperature changes. And the last one is interoception. We can be aware of our internal state in our body. We register hunger, thirst, the need to pee. And interestingly enough, our emotions seem to also be very much connected to this interoception. Information from this part of the body going to the insular cortex. And we can feel when we come into the room and something is up, you can feel in your body something that goes like, ooh. Or if you come into the room that is very nice and pleasant, there can be a feeling of, and you feel that in your body. So that is the internal sense of your body as a sensory input. So, right now, where can you place your awareness that it is supportive in one of the senses. Maybe your feet touching the ground, your body touching the ground and gravity, and resting in the gravity of your body can be very pleasant, enjoyable, and you can allow it to grow. Maybe the silence in the room. Or the nature that you see around, like the flower on the stage or the trees outside. So this cultivation of joy is possible. And at the same time, it is one of the things that I, for a very long time, refused to do. Thai would keep on saying about, you need to bring up the seed of joy in order, and I would be like, yeah, that's for other people. I'm a real practitioner. I just jump right into my suffering. Thai, teach me how to embrace my suffering. You're not teaching me. And at the same time, I was refusing to water the seed of joy. And that is very much linked to something else which is there in the mind, which is the sense of self. So, in between the mind and store consciousness, which is the collection of all potentialities that allows us to give meaning to the present moment. So one of those seeds, for example, was that moment when that little boy decided, I am now too big. I am now too big, I don't need love anymore. So the self, manas, appropriated a seed. I am too big. As a young boy, when I was in the classroom, I was very enthusiastic and I really wanted to win. And I remember playing a game of tag with my whole school, with my class. And I was so good, I even jumped through one of those hoops, was quite dangerous. And a girl said that she had tagged me, and I disagreed with her. And so I continued playing on, and she kept on saying, no, you were tagged. And I won. And then she said, no, I tagged you. And then the whole classroom sided with her. And I got so angry. Ooh, did I get angry. And I remember going into my classroom, and I got my little table and I put it in the corner and I decided, I am not part of you. The self appropriated right in that moment a seed in order to protect itself. This emotion is too big for me to handle. And I need something to decide to make sense of my world again, and I made this terrible decision. I am not part of people. And that seed has been part of me ever since. And it took me a very long time to be able to be with that seed, to even feel part of the monastic sangha. And I would look around. And I would see my brothers, and they would do an action, and they would confirm me. You see, I'm not part. Negating the part where a Thai Pham would listen to me again when I was complaining, which I did a lot. So the self grabs back into what we call store consciousness, all of our memories, and even the experiences of our ancestors. Like, for example, my grandfather, when he was about 9, lost his mother. And his father remarried, And when his wife did not accept him as a son. And so he had to, at one moment, sleep in the hay barn and got a lung infection that they did not treat, that went into his heart, and he died in the age of 63 or something because of heart failure. In his life, he has experienced that I am not a part. I need to be strong. I need to rely on myself. He didn't even get the inheritance of his father. His half-brothers managed to kick him out of that as well. And so what became very important for my grandfather was that all of his children will be treated equally. And my mother, when she had some money to give, she distributes it equally, even though maybe that son needs it more than the other. It continued. And I wonder, the moment when I said, I'm going to be strong, I don't need my bear, is that a continuation of my grandfather? Where he felt not loved. So we carry these seeds in us, and we identify, manas identifies and creates a whole narrative and creates an object of self. So we have ideas about who I am. And when a strong emotion comes up, like the seed of anger came up, I always wondered, does manas only claim store consciousness, or does manas also claim mind consciousness? And I experienced in myself that manas also does something in mind consciousness. So what manas can do is it can identify with a mental formation coming up. It can identify with anger coming up. So the little boy in rage was fully merged with that rage. And in that moment, he was not able to see all of those children that looked at me, who were sort of like, whoa, Bart is very angry right now. And it was very funny. Yesterday I was walking around and I met the neighbor, and she said like, oh, I just want to tell you, the teacher of my daughter just said that she was so happy to have a child like her in her classroom. The year before he had one too, who was so emotionally aware. And she would go around and she would say things like, dear friend, you are angry. I think you need to go for a walk. And after you're done walking, then you can talk with your friend. She's a Plum Village practitioner. The one the year before was also a Plum Village practitioner. But I didn't have a good spiritual friend like that. So what they did in that classroom is that some of them, they saw my rage, they didn't know what to handle it, and they looked quietly to me, not knowing what to do. But I interpreted that as they are all taking side with my friend, because I had so identified with the rage that I was only looking at all of those things that were confirming my belief that I was right. So what manas does is it manisificate. Manisification is a new word. If you don't speak English, it's not in the dictionary. It basically means self-justification. Let me just put self-justification under it. So the self creates an object, manas creates an object of self that it will try to defend. the moment that you are identified with anger, you are the anger. And manas will defend the anger. Try to embrace it by bringing up the seed of mindfulness. And anger will go like, yeah, hell no. Who do you think you are? You're a mindfulness practitioner. Do you think I don't know what you are doing? I am angry. Take me serious and leave me alone. And you embrace that seed and nothing happens. So, what do we do when we identify with the seed? We turn to joy. When you see the movie Inside Out, joy has a very important part to play. Brilliant movie, they forgot the body. But besides that, brilliant movie. What happens? Thai gave us the calligraphy, the peace and joy of my little toe is the peace and joy of my whole body. It's like, oh, that's nice. Even my little toe is allowed to practice. But what if Thai is actually giving us instructions? When we are angry, check with your little toe. Dear little toe, are you as angry as me? Dear little toe, how is it for you to be my little toe right in this moment? Well, my little toe is very simple. My little toe doesn't have very much words. It doesn't have many emotions. It does know how to enjoy life, because whenever I go to my little toe, my little toy answers with That's the experience of my little toe. My little toe, very simple. Also, my earlobe is also very simple. You know, my whole body can be tense, and I go to my little earlobe, and I say, dear little earlobe, are you tense? And my little earlobe goes like, no, because I don't have muscles. I go to my little toe, and I experience my little toe. And when I'm truly there with my little toe or my feet or anything else that is experiencing joy right in the moment, at that moment, I break the spell of manas that is saying, I am only the anger. Suddenly, I found evidence that that's not true, because my little toe is not angry. When I find that contradicting evidence in my mind, right in the present moment, manas has no other chance than to let go of the identification with. And suddenly, it is no longer I am angry, but suddenly it becomes there is something in me that is angry. And I can start feeling where I feel it in my body. Maybe it's in the core of my body. Maybe it's in a knot in my stomach. Or maybe a tingling, cramping sensation there around my liver. And so, by placing myself in awareness with that which is joyful, I break the spell. Now, what would be even more beautiful to do is that all the moments that anger or all these other difficult mental formations, when they are not there, that we actually cultivate our mind. In the happy farm, you will be cultivating and giving the right conditions for those plants to grow. So how can I cultivate my mind and give my mind the right conditions for things to grow? art of mindfulness is to be aware what is going on inside and around me. And it gives me a choice to choose where to place my awareness so that I can cultivate in freedom. So what do I cultivate? Where do I place my awareness in? It's a good question. And when we choose to place our awareness in that which is nourishing, safe enough, enjoyable, then all the time we are filling up our mind with those mental formations. And the moment a difficult mental formation comes up, it is already embraced. Because it is embraced with that which is in your mind. So ask yourself, when you're suffering, what kind of living room have I created for my suffering to be in? Is that a pleasant living room? Or is it kind of like dark and blue and a little bit drafty? Because that is what you're surrounding it with. So you need to bring up in the mind that which embraces it beautifully. So today our bell master is Brother Daobi. And Brother Daobi's body has rotated 33 times around the sun. It's his birthday. Flowers for Brother Daobi. I told him we will not sing a song for him. So we will not sing a song for him. Happy birthday. So I would like to invite you to make a little fist of your hand. And now I'd like to invite you to take something that was difficult for you, but not too difficult. So please, if you've had many difficult, very difficult things, please don't pick those, because you might get identified with it. So pick something that happened, but you're not so much identified with. But it was difficult enough. Now try to match how that difficulty felt by pressing in your hand. Now with your other hand, try to pry open your hand. Notice what happens. Do you notice any resistance? Does it open up? Okay. Now keep it. Now match again that intensity. And with your other hand, just feel if there's anything being joyful that has happened to you. And just notice this joy manifesting in that palm. Now hold it, that other fist, and then invite the palm, if it wants, to rest in the palm of your hand. Allow the fist to rest in the palm of your hand. Now notice what happens. And I see some hands slowly opening. What attitude do you bring to your suffering? Do you treat it as an object, as a problem, as a thing to be fixed? And I'm learning meditation so I can fix all those mental formations, those difficult ones, because then I will be a good person. or whatever. So I sing a song to my mental formations at times. And the song goes, hello, hello, something in me. I am aware that you are in there and you sure have got good reason to be. Hello, hello, something in me. I am aware that you are in there and I'm going to keep you company. And I'm going to keep you company. And I'm going to keep, and I'm going to keep, and I'm going to keep you company. So what attitude do I bring? Yeah, how can I be as loving and offer like a bear to my anger, my sadness, my loneliness? I had another experience when I was a little boy. I would be on the bicycle with my father, and in the Netherlands, we drive everywhere with the bicycle. And I remember that feeling of sitting in the back of my bike, of the bike of my father. And we would sing songs. And I'm now singing that song that we would sing on the bike just to honor my father because I love him. And this song is composed by Paul van Vliet. And basically, it's a song where he is like, when he is an adult and he has all of these responsibilities, how you could long back to that moment where you just sit in the back of the seat of your father, and you do not need to know where to go to because your father knows. And the only thing that you have to do is enjoy and feel holding him with the arms around him and just feel safe. So the song goes like: veilig achterop, bij vader op de fiets. Vader weet de weg en ik weg nog van niet. Veilig achterop, ik ben niet alleen. Vader weet de weg, vader weet waarheen. Oh, ik weet nog hoe het rook. En ik weet nog hoe het was. Met mijn armen om hem heen, mijn wang tegen zijn jas. That feeling that I had as a boy, safely on the back of the bike of my father. 2 days ago, when I was doing a walking meditation in this hall, I suddenly felt, I don't need to think about where I go to in this walking meditation. I can just allow my body to do the walking. And it was so enjoyable. And that same mental formation of safety that was first dependent on my father, I was now allowed to generate when I was doing the walking. Or when this morning I was putting on my robe, putting on this robe of a monk. My heart is at ease. I live a life of freedom, offering joy to the world. And as I was putting on the robe, I felt that my body knew what to do. My body knew how to breathe, and I could follow along. And this same feeling of safety was born. If I let go that it needs to come from somebody outside. And so many of our moments of happiness are of that same nature. If we let go of the idea that it needs to come from somewhere outside, we can actually touch it right in this moment. That is when you go sliding a little bit down that Z and you go to the ultimate. When you start removing views. So joy, when we cultivate joy and we feel it initially rising in our body, we feel it as sensations in our body. Then in the sutras it says, like a spring within a mountain, whose clear, pure water flows out and down all sides of that mountain and bubbles up in places where water has not previously entered, saturating the entire mountain. In the same way, joy permeates the whole of the practitioner's body, and it is present everywhere. This is in the sutras. But how often, when we see the moon, do we recognize, oh yeah, that's nice, and then we walk on? So to start joy, it needs 3 breaths. 3 breaths in order for it to start to be felt in the body. But we don't have to stop. We can allow our whole body, from the top to the toe, be filled by joy. And then it can go even further, that when that joy starts to rest, and the conceptualization about the joy can drop, the restlessness of the joy can drop, we can start to feel the experience of happiness. The Dutch would say happiness is like, it's the feeling of arriving, nowhere to go, nothing to do. And sometimes you see your own body do that. When you embrace an emotion, suddenly you start to yawn and something goes. So the feeling of happiness is one that is very calm, subtle. It's a kind of contentment. So our emotions start by the sensory input, and that can also come from the mind. And then very interesting, especially in the Western world, we have the belief that emotions come because of our analysis of the current situation and our thinking about it, and because of that, we experience an emotion. And the sutras say it very clearly, and also neuroscience says it very clearly, that that is a wrong view. Emotions are not caused by mental proliferation, that's continuously thinking about something. So in the sutra it says, and this is the Honeycake Sutra, the Mudu Pindika Sutta, number 18, that mental consciousness, the mind, arises dependent on the mind mental objects. And the contact between the 3, the meeting of the 3 is contact. And then it says, interesting, depending on contact, there is feeling. The first thing that our mind, what happens in our mind is feeling. And feeling is a very interesting one. In the sutras it says that a feeling can be pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral, and mixed. And feeling, for me, I think feeling is like the first layer of meaning that is saying like, do you want to approach this mental formation, or do you want to go away from this mental formation? And I think this is already present in very primitive life forms, that this is the first level of cognition available in all life forms. It's my personal opinion. And that based on feeling, says here very interesting, what one feels, that one perceives. So suddenly we have a self. The experience of feeling, in the experience of feeling, suddenly self comes in and perception comes in. And then with perception comes reason, with reason comes thinking about all those reasons, and that is why we get assailed by ideas about our past, present, and future. So anxiety is an example of that. Anxiety is the uncomfortable feeling of thinking about what could happen in the future and the feelings that would result of that you might think are too much to handle, and so you put so much energy in trying to not feel future feelings. But what if you're capable of handling those future feelings? Would you then still need to be anxious? Our feelings and our emotions are at the basis of how we give meaning to our life, and we spend so much energy trying to fix problems that seem to be outside of us. Because somehow Manas has decided that the feeling and the emotion that we are having right now should not be there. This is what is called forgetfulness. So for example, we will have formal lunch in a few moments in this hall. And I really disliked formal lunch as a monk. Because I would sit in formal lunch and I would look at the sisters, and I swear the sisters were looking at me, judging me on my fine manners. Especially those moments when I again forgot to bring my bowl and I had my glass bowl with me. So it's interesting what happens. Is it true that when I have a thought that the sisters are judging me when I'm sitting there in formal lunch, that the sisters are judging me? You know, I have another example. I have Brother Pham. Brother Pham is our abbot. And I love him. He's very expressive in his face. And several moments have passed where I come across Brother Pham and he raised an eyebrow when he looked at me. Oh my. Oh, Brother Pham is thinking this, this, and this, and this of me. It's like I knew it. Oh, no. So my practice is, am I sure? And I check with myself, is there a feeling right now, is there an emotion right now that I am not yet seeing? And when I do that, especially when I think others judge me, I can recognize, shame. And I go to the shame. And I check, how old is this shame? If I would give it an age, how old is it? And very often, it is as old as when I had a teddy bear. And so I check, I say, oh, hello, shame. I know you're there. And then I go and I check, how does my shame want me to relate to it? What does my shame need of me? How does it want me to be with it? And a shame of 3 years old is very simple, because it just wants a hug. And so internally I say to the shame, hello, my shame. I will be with you for as long as you need, even if it takes my whole lifetime. It's interesting. Can you say that sentence to your mental formations? I have some skin problems, and it worked with that as well. I had to say, oh, hello, my skin problem. I welcome you. You can be like this for as long as you need, even if it takes my whole lifetime. And something in me goes, ah. And it's interesting, the story before I had about that suddenly shifts. I guarantee you, when you have a story about your suffering, and you go to the emotion that is below the suffering, and you say to the story, hello story, I know you're there. I will come back to you right in a moment, but right now I'm busy. I really love you, but I'm busy. I will come back to you. And you park the story, you go to the emotion in your body, you embrace the emotion in the body, let it calm down, then come back to the story. And then suddenly you have a story that says like, yeah, actually, the story is now this. And it has changed right in front of your eyes. At first you thought that this story was the truth. And now this story is the truth. When you see the impermanence of a story right happening in front of your eyes, and you see that the only thing that really has shifted is that the emotion is differently felt in the body, then you will have the insight that a story is a formation based on emotion. And if you want to take care of the story, you need to take care of the emotion. And where do you take care of the emotion? In your body. A bell. I lost my thread. So I'm going to invoke my lifeline. In case of emergency, use on dark days. I got this from my father, and he said, Dear Pham, dear Bart, congratulations with this moment. It was in the time when I received the lamp and became a Dharma teacher. I'm no longer 3, I'm 43 now, and I need glasses. Happy birthday. Oh no, congratulations. It's not to Brother Dabi, sorry. Congratulations with this beautiful moment in your life, the receival of the lamp. We are proud of you that you have chosen this path and to give meaning to your life. That does a lot to us as parents. And imagine that it is difficult in your life and your little light extinguishes. Use then this emergency packet. We love you. Love, Mom and Dad, the 11th of June, 2022. So, it's not that of a big emergency, but I've used it a few times when I was really low. And it meant so much for me. To have spiritual friends. Friends that really try to understand you. That are there for you. That can accept your mistakes. And have faith that you will learn from it and stand up again and do it again. What we want people is not that you don't make mistakes. It's but to learn from it. Why I lost that little boy and that innocence and joy of that little boy because I came into a society where suddenly you get graded and suddenly it's about performance and suddenly joy gets dropped out for success. It's like, what do we sacrifice for success? And I learned not to play anymore. There's one thing I learned in my community and as a monk is how to play again. I've learned how to make tempeh in our community. I can now make 45 kilo of tempeh. Very proud of myself. It took me many years and many mistakes because so many times it failed. And I learned a lesson. I damn well, sorry for my language, let me rephrase, let me enjoy making tempeh. Enjoy the actions of making tempeh. So I already have enjoyment when I'm done. Then if I have success, that is a bonus. If it's a failure, try again. But we need to play, need to learn from our mistakes. And we need our spiritual friends on our path. So thank you, Dad. Thank you, Tai. Thank you, so many conditions that allows me to right now light this little candle. The oxygen, are you enjoying? You will become a little flame. The earth is manifesting as a flame. The whole cosmos is manifesting as a flame. So when we are identified with our emotions, we refuse joy. When we have deep suffering, we refuse joy. And we might go into repeating the story about our suffering, and the result is that we think we are helping ourselves, but we have just been watering even more the seed of suffering in us. So joy, at first, when we suffer deeply, we will have resistance against it. So learn then to tolerate joy. It's a little bit like a little baby or a little child on the edge of the water who has never touched the ocean before, and the waves are there on the shoreline. And you walk in as a parent, and the child goes like, no, no, no. And the parent will have to stand in the water and be like, oh, this is so enjoyable. Would you also like to try? Let's do it together. And then the child will step in. And in the same way, we can talk to our anger. Oh, dear little anger. You know, in the past it helped when we touched joy. Shall we try to do it together? I'm not forcing you. You need to have consent, even with your own emotions. Let us touch that joy together and see if suddenly there is more space for us to be in, and that actually it will be more enjoyable. That's an art. The art of being with yourself. So, just before preparing this Dharma talk, I spoke with one of my mentees, one of the aspirants. So I'm training aspirants now that will become monks. And he was sharing a difficulty, and I checked his permission if I could repeat this. And he was sharing a difficulty with his mom. And as he was sharing this and repeating that story, at one moment I told him, can I just stop you? And in that moment, I helped him to recognize what was going on. So he was in the story talking about his suffering. And in the same time, the experience of the suffering was becoming alive. So I stopped him. And that helped him in that moment to go to what is most needed. Namely, the feelings that were being expressed in his body. And so he took the moment and the mindfulness energy that we had generated as a group sitting there to just feel and be with. and it could calm down. So when we stop, it's not just that we stop when we listen to the bell, but we also choose to go somewhere. So we can choose to go there where it's most nourishing and healing, like listening to the bell, like feeling our body, the touching of the joy. It's quite courageous in Dharma sharing to stop when you see an emotion coming up and feel. See if you're identified with it. Then go to joy so that you can talk about the process of how you're practicing with your suffering. In Dharma sharing, it is not healing to just repeat the story of your suffering. If you do not have the capacity to actually embrace the experience and the suffering in that moment. So they have to go together. And that after you've shared, you will feel lighter. That felt good to share that. So maybe for Dharma sharing this morning, you can do a little round and ask the question, what has given you joy in the last days? And maybe place a hand in your body where you felt that, if you felt it. And then you can go around in a circle. And then as a homework for the coming hours, you can try to remember something light enough, some event recently where you identified yourself with an emotion. And maybe you can feel where you felt it in your body and then generate some joy to take care of it. Tolerate that joy. Say hello to it. Maybe sing it a song and be with it. How is it to practice like that? So, and if only big things come up, please stay only with what is supportive. Because big things we tend to identify with. So then we stay more with what is supportive. Maybe with our breath, maybe with our steps, or maybe in anything else of your other senses. Other questions that we can ask ourselves is, are you catching yourself manisificating? Are you catching yourself self-justifying? Are you catching yourself creating a story where it is out there, the problem? And can you say, yes, okay, wait, what is it about me in this? And can you see how manas might have switched you with I with you? Because in the end, it wasn't the sisters judging me, although I don't know, maybe they do. But as I look into the audience, they just smile, so. But I felt ashamed about my own way of being a monk. And I could not accept it of myself. And so I put it on them. Or can I catch myself thinking when I hold on to a view so strongly that I negate all the evidence against it? If you do not catch yourself doing that, maybe you need to increase your mindfulness energy. I see myself catching myself all the time, and it is very liberating. It is like eating that honey cake. Very sweet, once you see that you are ignorant, and that there is a part of you that you have neglected to see, and you can lovingly take responsibility for it. Can you recognize the age of your mental formations? How do you identify with it? How would it like you to be with it? What feeling are you willing to feel? So I give you a lot of questions. I'm over time. I promised Brother Tini I would stop at 11 and I failed. But maybe he can forgive me. This is the first time giving a 3 Hamlet Dharma talk with monastics in the audience, which is pretty scary because they know me. Yeah. somehow they still love me. It's really amazing with all the things I've done. I once destroyed their tofu machine. I was no happy with them. I'd like to end with a story. This is a story I wrote and I adapted a little bit. This is a story about a little firefly. And it was night, and as the sun was setting, all the little fireflies would creep out of their little hiding places. And they would fly around, and it was like a mirage of little moving lights, a sight to see. And in that, there was this one little firefly who had a little broken wing. And her flight wasn't like those other fireflies. It was kind of erratic. And she was feeling like, whoa, something has happened in the past that she wasn't able to reconcile. And so seeing all her fellow fireflies around, she felt not part of them. And anyway, it didn't matter, because she didn't want to be like a firefly. She wanted to be like those tiny lights in the sky. Beautiful, still, and bright. And so, in the end of the night, she would send out this meditation, asking to teach how to be as still and beautiful as those lights in the sky. And the next day, she came and no answer was there, and twilight was there again. The fireflies were flying around in beautiful formations, and she was only looking up in the sky. And she meditated, and no answer came. And days like this came by, and no answer came. So then, one day, when the night had fallen, and the sun was setting, and the fireflies were flying around, she decided, if those lights don't come to me with their answer, I will go to them. And so this little firefly with her broken wing started flying up through the canopy, above where no firefly had went before, and up, and the winds were taking her. And up, and where she went, and it was, she was out of breath, but she went on until suddenly it became completely dark. When she opened her eyes, little lights were shining around. And she heard a deep voice. "Hello, my friend. Please turn around." And as she turned around, she saw this big globe of white light. "I'm so happy to finally meet you, because I am the sun. And I've heard your prayers, and I would like you to know that I wanted to send my answer to you, but my place is in the sky. And my job is to shine light, and some of it miraculously hits your little planet, and I'm so joyful that I can continue in the birds, in the trees, and even in you, my little firefly. But let you tell me and show you your history and my history." And in a flash, the firefly was experiencing the big expansion of the Big Bang, and how in that big giant stars were formed, that some collapsed into black holes and others exploded and flew out all of their dust into the sky. And those dust coalesced into the sun and the stars and in the planets around. And as big Jupiter was formed, it started to travel inwards, and it was taking away all of the materials that was around there, and there was almost nothing left when Saturn was born. And in the balance, Saturn gently pulled back Jupiter and left a very quiet, peaceful place where Earth could form. And she saw Earth and the meeting of Taia as Taia donated the core of her metal body to the core of the Earth. And the mantle of Taia and the Earth got swooped around and formed the moon and the mantle of the Earth again. And she saw how this stabilized the planet. And she saw how the radiation was bounced away because of this strong magnetic field, and she experienced life being born, and how every in and out breath on the sea of the little tiny organisms that grew there. She touched her whole evolution and how her body finally came out of that of her mother and became her. Finally, after this beautiful vision, the firefly opened her eyes and the sun set. So now do you see? You are made of starlight. Wake up to the beauty that you are. Wake up, you're falling. And the firefly flew. And she spread her little wings and came down gently on the floor. And as she opened her eyes, she went to sleep. The next day she woke up and she saw the fireflies around. She saw her little wing and she felt the suffering. But right in that moment, she experienced herself as the earth, the moon, the sun, Saturn, and Jupiter. She experienced herself as the starlight, and she saw that her suffering was just of the same amazing nature. And in that it relaxed. And she saw that all the dust and the trees around her were her siblings. And so she flew around, and she saw all the fellow stars, all the fellow fireflies. And she thought, wow, they are shining starlight, just as beautiful as I. And that is how you come at that bottom of the sea.